Welcome back, everyone, to the Vikings Playbook Podcast. I want to thank all of you that maybe have came over from the Vocal Vike. I was just on with Rap, and we did a show at 7 p.m. Central Time. So kind of a double header tonight for the Vikings Playbook, myself, and have an exciting show for you tonight. A lot to talk about, and to join me with the Vikings Playbook Podcast, we have a special guest, Ryno from the Vikings Uncensored podcast. You can follow Ryno on social media at Vikings or Vikes Uncensored, and on YouTube it's Vikings Uncensored, and then also on Facebook, go ahead, just put in your search bar Vikings Uncensored. You should be able to bring them up as well. So exciting show for you guys tonight. Again, having Ryno on tonight, the different things we're going to be talking about. We'll touch on the Kwesi GM firing, of course. That's the hottest topic going right now. Rob B and KOC in charge. We'll talk about the NFL Hall of Fame Pro Bowl voting. Justin Jefferson had some interesting comments that, I think some we'll talk about. Maybe is that getting blown out of proportion? And then just where is JJ McCarthy in this whole thing after the Kwesi GM firing, and where does he stand going into next season? So these are all things that we're going to talk about. With no further ado, I'm going to go ahead and welcome onto the stage Ryno from the Vikings Uncensored podcast. Ryno, how we doing tonight?
Doing good. It's been an interesting couple of days if you're Vikings fans. We had, the big firing yesterday, and then hired a bunch of position coaches today too. So
absolutely, that Vikings horn, it's sounding for different reasons, and that's obviously we have a lot going on, a firing, things that we'll talk about. But before we get into that, tell us about the Vikings Uncensored podcast, when you guys are doing pods, and if there's anywhere else we need to find you or anything else we need to know.
All right, yeah, you had all the socials up there. That's where we have our main presence through our Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. So you can find us on all of those. Shows typically either Friday nights, Saturday nights around 9 p.m.-ish. My co-host Brunswick, his work schedule varies a little bit, so we have to bounce back and forth a little bit. But
sure.
Live shows all the time when we do it. We kind of pride ourselves on being interactive with the viewers, taking comments, questions. They're throwing discussion points out. We kind of just kind of freestyle it, and we like to call ourselves the guys just sitting at the bar having a beer and talking football podcast. So check us out. We're off next week yet, but we'll be back the following week to start rolling in for free agency and onto the draft, and of course all of the fallout from the big news here from the last couple of days. So
absolutely. So you guys, you said like, hey, we're the guys at the bar. That's what we're doing. I mean, we're talking about this team because we're passionate. So think of you guys that are following or watching on stream right now. That's what we are. We're passionate fans that are invested in the team just like you guys. So if you guys have questions for myself or Ryno, make sure that you go ahead and put your comments on YouTube and X. We'll answer them live. So go ahead and throw them at us as we get into this. And if you're not already following us on X, that's Vikings Playbook on X, Vikes Playbook on YouTube, and then you can also find us Vikings Playbook on not only Instagram and Facebook, but also TikTok. So we're trying to move into some different spaces and grow those as well. So please make sure that you're following us. And I'd like to go ahead and mention, if you're not already following my writing, because a lot of the times we're talking about some stuff I'm also writing about, go ahead and follow us on Purple PTSD, which is also on X, and check out the website. Purple PTSD, got different articles going up there. We got great writers over there giving you Vikings news all the time. So purpleptsd.com. I'm even repping tonight with the Purple PTSD shirt. Again, check us out, follow us. And the other thing, I have to go ahead and pitch it. I did pitch it at the end of Vocal Vike, but I also do a fantasy football podcast as well too. So we do have fantasy football going on with fantasy15football.com. go ahead and check that out as well. My co-host Ryan is usually on with me, usually every Wednesday during the football season. We're about every other week during the off season, but we're going to have a draft kit ready for 2026 for you and different rankings coming out weekly for next season. But go ahead and get started. We do have our Fantasy 15 fan chat where you can collaborate with other fantasy football owners, as well as get our takes as far as who you should trade, start, sit in our Fantasy 15 fan chat, which is available on fantasy15football.com. So I talked about a lot of different things that we're going to get into. We're going to just jump right into topic number one. And the hot news that everyone wants to talk about on social media right now is Vikings GM Kwesi Adofo-Mensah gets fired. And Mark Wilf ends up coming out with this video that I'm going to go ahead before we get out. They come out with this statement from Mark and Ziggy Wilf talking about, if effective immediately, Vice President of Football Operations Rob Brzezinski is going to lead the operations through the 2026 NFL Draft. So they talk about his credibility, but again, they say that it's in their best interest of the team to move forward with new leadership for their football operations. And again, here's some quick live video from Mark Wilf.
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for joining us on short notice, and I appreciate you all making the time today. On behalf of our ownership, I want to express our appreciation for Kwesi and for the time and effort he put into this role. These are never easy decisions because you're impacting a person in a family and someone we care about. We understand there'll be questions on the timing and why now. I think you know how we want to operate as owners. We want to avoid knee-jerk reactions, be pragmatic, thoughtful, methodical in making these decisions. And as we do each year, we held our end of the season organizational meetings over a couple of weeks, and then spent this past week as an ownership group reviewing, discussing, and how best to move forward. This is a critical offseason. Ultimately, we felt the change was necessary in football operations and did not feel comfortable going forward into this offseason with the current leadership. It's not about any one decision or move. We looked at the situation cumulatively. We just didn't feel confident going through the entirety of the offseason, an additional draft, and free agency with this structure. We have an urgency to create a winning football team and establish sustainable success for our fans. At the same time, we balance that urgency with all decisions thoroughly and methodically. Winning football, that's what drives all our decision making and is the core of all our efforts every single day. We have incredible fans. They deserve a winning team and a team that contend deep into the playoffs and win championships. As we said in our announcement, Rob Brzezinski will lead our football operations in the interim through the draft and will rely heavily on Kevin, the coaching staff, the talent evaluators we have on this personnel side. We have an excellent, strong organization. Rob brings tremendous credibility and experience, understands our roster, and has an innate ability to build consensus with coaches and personnel. In terms of the long term, certainly we will have conversations and begin laying the groundwork for a process now. But from a practical perspective of where we are in the football cycle, and in order to give ourselves the best outcome, we expect to conduct a thorough search to identify our next general manager after the draft. And with that, I'll open it up to questions.
All right, so that was the initial comments from Mark Wilf. Just your first reactions, Ryno, on what you just heard and to the Kwesi Adofo-Mensah firing.
I guess my biggest thing is, why didn't they do it at the end of the season? I know that they talked about being deliberate and they're going through all this stuff, but unless they have a plan already in place and what they think they're going to do long term, you let the top 3 or 4 GM candidates go get a job someplace else, and now you're going to be left scrambling unless that their plan is for Kevin O'Connell to get basically 53-man roster control, and whoever they bring in as a general manager, kind of is the rubber stamp for Kevin, which, then if they're going to be doing that, then this probably isn't, the timing doesn't matter as much as what it seems on the surface anyway. But it was just kind of awkward, I think, because Kwesi was down at Mobile for the Senior Bowl practice all week, and
Bingo.
then Friday morning you come to find out that when he gets back to TCO Performance Center, his key card didn't work in the lock, basically. So
the key wasn't under the rock anymore.
Right. The timing is a little bit weird. It's not unexpected. I have kind of thought that it should have happened anyway, but it's just the timing is a little bit weird to me. But
yeah, and before I jump into it, Barber Fade Up says, "Skol, great show with Rap tonight. I appreciate that." He says, "Great show." Yes, and thanks for following us over here for this show for Vikings Playbook and on the Vocal Vike. I talked about this topic, and when we got into this, you talked about it being weird about him being down in Mobile. Why didn't they do it at the end of the season? And I think that's because they just weren't sold on it yet. And I think when they weighed the decisions, I think that they were ready to ride out another season with Kwesi because if you were going to fire him, you don't send him down to Mobile, right?
You wouldn't have thought so, but
you gotta. But they sent him down to Mobile. He gets back, and then he does a press conference, and they ask him about Sam Darnold, and I think his response about Sam Darnold was really just the most telling thing that came out of it, to where he basically had to admit that hey, I blew it with Sam, and I think that's where it came down, where that was the final straw, where Ziggy and Mark Wilf just had to say, I just couldn't do it. So that's all I got to say. On the Kwesi thing is, obviously he had it coming for the draft picks and, the failures that we've had there. Again, another shout out to my guy, Dustin Baker over at Vikings Territory, our sister website with Purple PTSD. He throws it out as far as the Vikings being 31 out of 32 teams since Kwesi came in as GM, as far as our draft picks and the amount of playing time that they've got. So we're basically the worst. There's one other team that's worse than us in the league in hitting on our draft picks and getting them valuable playing time. So that was already out against him. I had an article on Purple PTSD already on this, as KOC, Kwesi both in the hot seat, Kwesi being on the hotter hot seat. But I didn't think that was going to happen before the season. Just with how everything ended and us getting to 9-8, ending on 5 straight wins, I thought that maybe saved them. But again, those comments and with Sam making the Super Bowl, that kind of changed some things. And I think that had a lot to do with this firing with Kwesi Adofo-Mensah.
I think another thing here, though, I kind of wonder if there wasn't. I mean, we've been hearing all sorts of stuff coming out, from various sources, credible or not, nobody knows. But there was a lot more that, we knew something was off this year. It just, everything seemed a little bit weird. But as some of that starts to come out, I wonder how much of this was a Kevin O'Connell power play. They got Kwesi out of the building. He got in the Wilf's ears and, kind of pushed the decision over the edge. I heard something interesting today that on the Brian Flores front, that part of the reason that he didn't sign a contract earlier than he did may have been because he wasn't sold on the leadership of the team with Kwesi. Now take that for what it's worth. I don't, obviously don't know it for a fact, but it came from it was actually, I believe it was Kevin Seifert from Star Tribune or ESPN wrote a column today or article, and that was in there on it. So, I mean, it's interesting, but
yeah, Rapp and I were talking about this, and Rapp, brought out the question of, the timing of these 4 additional coaches that just got hired right after the Kwesi firing that we decided to bring on, and how that played into things. Well, yes, we had to replace Durante Jones because he left, but some of these others in getting rid of Chris Cooper, bringing on another offensive line coach. Now, a lot of us thought, hey, that needed to happen anyways. But the fact that it didn't happen before was that some of, KOC saying, I got to get a new offensive line coach, or, I got to get a different assistant head coach. And maybe there was some back and forth between Kwesi and KOC not seeing eye to eye on some of those personnel changes. Did that have something to do with it too? I mean, one could look at
possible.
The day after he leaves and now we're hiring coaches. So that definitely could have played into it. And that's something that Rapp also was bringing up over on Vocal Vike.
Yeah. I mean, the assistant coach and the position coaches, things like that, general manager should have no say in that. That's, he's in charge of personnel, getting the draft picks and figuring out how to make contracts work and all that other stuff. The coach should be able to have whoever he wants as his position coaches, unless
timing's interesting though.
It is interesting. Yeah. I mean, it's, my guess is they wanted to drop the bombshell first and then, kind of fill this stuff in after that. But again, yeah, it could have been something that could have been announced at the beginning of the week or something, it just kind of fills in, like I talked about earlier, how this whole season, everything just felt a little bit weird, and this situation feels just as weird as the rest of it. But
yeah, Six Shooter Nation over on YouTube says this got to get better. It got to get right again. We were one of the winningest franchises in the league, and as of last year, now we're looking utterly embarrassing as a franchise. Yeah, I mean, last year was a mess. It wasn't just injuries on the offensive line. It wasn't just the fact that we couldn't get Andrew Van Ginkel healthy. It wasn't the fact that we couldn't get Jordan Addison on the field right away because of legal issues. It wasn't the fact that, we couldn't, have JJ McCarthy on the field. We only got him in for 10 games here and there. He had 3 different main injuries, fourth if you count the one at the end. There's just a lot of things that went wrong. There was the mechanics thing, saying that, JJ's mechanics were all screwed up. But then when we let JJ be JJ in weeks 14 through 16, we see basically a different player. Mm-hmm. And we start to see that trajectory and that development track start to go upward. And so, KOC has some blame in that. Absolutely. And, so we'll get into some of that too. But, yeah, I mean, you're right, Six Shooter. I mean, it was embarrassing last year because we were a mess. Now, some of the things that played into, us going on our winning streak at the end, yeah, I mean, some of it had to do with JJ was playing better, but our defense kept us in games, and thank goodness we were able to bring Brian Flores back. That's one of the key things that we have going for us was our defense this year. But we got to get right, not just in the play calling. We got to continue to get JJ McCarthy going in the right direction, and we got to be able to fix whatever was going on with that offensive line last year to make sure that we can keep our quarterback upright and that we can get our run game going as well. So absolutely, Six Shooter. Thank you for that. Appreciate that. Yeah, so Kwesi, he gets fired. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of weird how it goes. And, one of the things that came up here, and this was a Daniel Rotman on X, and this kind of got a little bit of play, but it says there was internal disagreement when drafting JJ McCarthy and when deciding whether to prioritize him or Sam Darnold this offseason. Kevin O'Connell wanted to go in another direction. The Vikings were moments away from trading McCarthy to the Raiders this offseason, but to no avail. So that kind of came out. I don't think that ever happened. I feel like if there was a Raiders trade, we would have heard about it, right?
You would have thought so. And again, we've seen so many things come out, in the last 36 hours. Everybody is piping up now about, this and this and all the internal schisms and conflicts that were going on. And now Kwesi basically locked himself in his office and didn't associate with anybody and was doing it as an 8 to 5 job and not being the gung ho grinder football guy that spends 17 hours a day in the office, and how much of this is true, how much of it is, just. I made the comment earlier today when I was talking to somebody. The one that remains gets to point the fingers, basically. Kwesi's out the door, so there's so much of the stuff that they're pointing. This was all on Kwesi. It was all on Kwesi. But like you mentioned earlier, Kevin O'Connell deserves some of the blame for what happened.
Absolutely.
Last year.
We're going to talk about that. Yeah, I mean, we did talk about a little bit, but and Barber also says this. So Kwesi was holding us back. To an extent, yes. And I would say KOC had some blame.
The lack of drafting and all that stuff. Yeah, I mean, absolutely.
Now, KOC had blame this year. This year, KOC absolutely had blame. And KOC, I think, because of how this year has gone, is absolutely going to be on the hot seat here in 2026. And we're going to get into it. I see your comment coming on here, Barber, and we're going to get into that too. But let's take a look at some of these too. These are some of the draft picks. Now, there are some good draft picks on here that Kwesi and the scouts and, if KOC was involved in it as well too, they did hit on some of these. But when we take a look at some of these individuals, most of them are no longer on the team. And Ed Ingram, we brought him in, and this is, is this a Chris Cooper offensive line coaching failure? Because now he's doing good with the Texans. Andrew Booth, Lewis Seen, that one will live in our nightmares as we see Hamilton with the Ravens succeeding. We take a look at that next draft. Yeah, he hit on Jordan Addison. That was absolutely a win and a great pickup, I think. And Mekhi Blackmon, we ended up shipping him off over to Indianapolis where he's thriving. So again, was that the right decision? Doesn't look so now, the way that we traded him and he's succeeding and we still have a hole at the cornerback spot. Jay Ward, ended up taking over that safety spot this year. But again, is he a true starter? I don't know. I mean, we'll see. Yeah. I still think that we need somebody there, maybe stronger, but we'll see. And then this last year, Dallas Turner started to look good. This year, I'm really, as he's getting more playing time, I think we're going to continue to see him go. Will Reichard was a hit. So you got to give him some credit on some of these. I think Michael Juergens has been a solid backup center. And then we take a look at this year. Donovan Jackson, absolute hit. We don't know on Ty Felton. Tyranny Ingram Dawkins looks to be decent. Kobe King, no longer on the team, right? It didn't even, we decided to put him on the practice squad. He got wavered and he's gone. Gavin Bartholomew was injured all this season. So there was definitely some hits and some misses in here. So, when you look at it, yeah, absolutely. Could we have been better in this section? Now, if JJ McCarthy turns out, this definitely looks a lot better than what it did.
Right.
It gets a lot stronger towards the end than what it started for Kwesi when you take a look back at the record. All right. So the next thing that we're going to go ahead and jump into when we're talking about the GM is who should the Vikings target as GM? So Rob Brzezinski, who's been with the team for 28 years, they obviously trust him enough to keep him as the interim GM through the draft. Interesting enough, they keep Ryan Grigson on. He was the assistant GM, which I agree. It's weird that he's still on here. We're going to hire a different GM. If he was GM worthy, you would think as an assistant GM, he would be able to step up in this GM role in the interim as we look for a new one after the draft, as they mentioned. But I think some of this is, Rob Brzezinski is a really good, not just a money guy, but he's the executive vice president of operations. Yes, he's been pigeonholed as the money guy, but I think he can do a lot of other things too. And I think this is possibly an interview, if you will, in action to see how he does. And I think, Mark said that there will be extensive interviews. I don't doubt that will still probably happen. It'll be interesting once that does happen. is Rob Brzezinski one of the names that's mentioned that's going to get a shot as GM? So I do think that he deserves a shot, and he's going to get it initially through this draft process. There's a lot of rumors that the Vikings are going to try to go back to that old school football guy instead of an analytics type guy like Kwesi. Now, that's not Rob, but that doesn't mean that they can't bring in an assistant GM that is that football guy. With with KOC also having maybe a little bit more say and impact in those draft picks, which I also think puts him in another hot seat position. Are you helping to the positive in that role as well? Thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, it's, Rob Brzezinski's been with the team since I think it was 1999. He came on board, so he's been here forever. And he's had the opportunity to go other places. People have thrown wild offers at him, because of his reputation as being that cap wizard, and he's chosen to stay here, which is, says something about him. I've heard conflicting things of whether or not he actually wants to be a general manager or if he's happy just being in the position that he's in. But one thing that, I did glean from Mark Wilf's press conference yesterday was, that Kevin O'Connell will have input in hiring the next GM. Because you look at general manager hirings around the league all the time. If the head coach is already in there and they bring in a new general manager, he's not that guy's coach, so automatically gets on the hot seat, which is kind of why I think, to a point I brought up earlier about Kevin O'Connell probably having more control over the 53-man roster, and then just having a general manager that basically is on the same level, and he's not Kevin's boss. And there's a few guys out there that I think fit that bill. If they give it to Brzezinski, he would fit that bill, I think. But I think the name that a guy really should be taking a look at is John McKay, the assistant general manager with the Rams.
I've heard that name come up as well.
He was there when Kevin was there, and it's, I like to call it the KOC clubhouse. It seems like he hires all of his buddies, and doing something like bringing McKay in here probably would eliminate that, new GM. That Kevin's not my guy, so I'm going to want to look for a different coach down the road here. I think there's a lot of stars aligning towards that, I think, and I would not be surprised at all that that's the way it ends up. And there's other guys out there that I think would be, if you want to go to the old school football guys, I really like Ed Dodds, the assistant GM in Indianapolis. He was my choice before Kwesi got the job here.
A lot of those individuals that interviewed last time already have GM positions elsewhere, or are assistant GM somewhere else. There's a few of them that don't have GM positions now that we interviewed last time. So that name's a little bit more bare from, we can't just recycle the names from the last time.
Right. And his name escapes me right now. I did some research on it. The assistant general manager for the Seahawks right now too is a name that, and like I said, I'm drawing a blank at the moment, but he's worked under John Schneider since 2013. So, John Schneider is one of the best GMs in the league, and of course, Seattle's made the Super Bowl this year. He does a great job building a team, and I think somebody who has had experience working with him, is another guy to keep an eye on. But there again, then you fall into that, is he going to want to replace Kevin O'Connell kind of thing afterwards? But
yeah, I don't think that's the case, because I don't think that's going to be necessarily in their hands. I think it's all in KOC's hands, and I think a lot of that has to do with how this next season goes. And that kind of rolls into topic 3, is Kevin O'Connell in the hot seat. And before we even get into this, I already had a comment on here that kind of was from the last one into this next one, where Barber Fade Up on YouTube is saying the pressure's on KOC to hit in the draft along with B-Flow. And you're absolutely right, Barber. I mean, there's going to be more pressure, not just with some of the stuff that we had issues in 2025 with play calling, with the development of JJ McCarthy for KOC, but also we know now that he's going to have more input on this draft, along with Rob B. So he's going to have more pressure on him to where I think that seat is hotter. And when we get into topic 3 on here, is Kevin O'Connell on the hot seat. I wrote an article about this before the Kwesi thing, right? So I said his seat was already hot going into 26. We had other coaches, Mike Tomlin, John Harbaugh, and yes, I know Mike retired. Sure, he retired. But it was probably looking like he was going to get let go. John Harbaugh and Sean McDermott among 10 of 32 teams that decided to replace their head coach. And those coaches, a lot of them had, at least those 3 that I named, have a lot of playoff wins, have 2 Super Bowls. 2 of them have Super Bowl wins, and they got replaced. So you don't even have a win in the NFC North. You're the only one without a playoff win. So coming into this next season, I think it's, at least I think it's playoffs, or I think he might be gone after this next season. And I do think he doesn't have to win that playoff game, even though I think that is definitely a big thing. I think because of if JJ's the quarterback, I think if the development is on the right trajectory, and depending on how we lose or how our season ends, that will all play into whether or not Kevin O'Connell is our coach going into 2027. Your thoughts? And what are your thoughts on X? Go ahead and throw those on there too, and YouTube, on what your thoughts are. But go ahead, Ryno.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that Kevin O'Connell's seat is as hot as a lot of people think it is. I think it should be, but the Wilfs love Kevin O'Connell, and I think they're going to give him every opportunity to right this ship. I mean,
yeah, as they should.
Right. I mean, realistically, they were 3 guys screwing up a kick coverage from winning the NFC North and being, hosting a playoff game this year.
Yeah, let's not get it twisted. I'm not calling for his job,
right?
But his seat should be hot. And I'm not for firing a coach just to fire him. You should have a replacement in mind if you're going to do that.
Right. I'm not either. I'm just, seeing a lot of the stuff that I, out on the socials and everything that, everybody basically saying Kevin O'Connell can't even sit down, that the seat is so hot. I don't think it's as hot as that.
Yeah, but I don't think it's that hot.
No, but I do believe if they miss the playoffs next year, or if they start, 1-7 or something, there's a very, very real possibility Brian Flores could take over as head coach of the team mid-season if it went that bad.
So let me ask you this. So what are the 2 main strengths when you think of Kevin O'Connell? What are those 2 main strengths of Kevin O'Connell, and why you would want him as a head coach? Just quick answer.
I mean, the biggest thing, he's got the team building thing. He's got that, the culture thing that they're looking for. I think he's a pretty good motivator. He can call a really good game.
Okay, so play calling. We wanted him for the offensive play calling.
Yeah, play calling is a plus and a minus, because as we've all seen, he can outsmart himself sometimes out there, get a little too cute, and that
so
kind
this
of
is
stuff.
my point. And then the second one, and you talked about the culture thing, and culture is great if you're winning, right?
Right.
Culture stinks no matter where you're at if you're losing. And that second one was quarterback, right? Developing a quarterback, or being that quarterback whisperer, right? So this year we had problems with developing JJ and him trying to put him in a box as far as what he wasn't, right? We were trying to fix his mechanics and turn JJ into what he's not. And then finally, and props to Kevin O'Connell to simplifying or whatever we want to call it, letting JJ be JJ. And I kind of, my analogy that I had with rap earlier was the movie Glory Road. Okay, so if you haven't seen it, it's it's a girls basketball coach that ends up going to Texas Western, and he goes to Texas Western, and he ends up recruiting a bunch of black players, African American players, to come in, and he's one of the first coaches to do it, right? Mm-hmm. So he ends up leading this team, and they get to the playoffs, and they get to the national championship. They end up winning it all, but on their way there, because the coach is trying to put them in a box, they started having some struggles, and there was a lot of other stuff going on there too. But, he was trying to make them play a way that they have, that they're not at their best. And, and the point guard, and I'm forgetting names right now, but, he says, "Coach, if you let us play our game, we'll win." And I feel like that's the same thing here. That coach let them play their game, and they played a lot better, and they ended up winning it, right? Historic. I think it's the same way with JJ McCarthy that we saw finally, Coach, let me play my game. Weeks 14 through 16, we got to see some of JJ's game, and we liked it. Yeah, we liked it. We started to see, hey, there might be something here, and we have to see more of that. But that's one of the things where, so how good is he at developing? And we'll see this year. Do we develop more? Mm-hmm. I would hope so, but we'll see. And then again, that second one, play calling, we had some issues with play calling where he was getting called out several times early and towards the middle of the season, especially for running the ball or lack of thereof.
Well, and that's
the ball in key situations.
Yeah, and that's one of my knocks that I have on Kevin O'Connell is, he's got it in his mind that I likened it to Brad Childress. I called him Brad Childress with a better personality mid-season when we were having, those issues. It's, he has it in his mind. This is my offense. This is how it's going to run. And this is how, we're going to make everybody fit into that to make it work. When, you're putting the square pegs in the round hole kind of thing. And then I look at that, and it's in the big picture, nobody cares what your offensive scheme is as long as you win games. You can run the ball 40 times and win a game, or you can throw it 40 times for 400 yards and win a game. At the end of the day, all that matters is you won that game. Mm-hmm. The adjustments and stuff off of that, his preconceived notion on it, he seems a little hesitant to do that. But then you look back at when Brian Flores got hired as a defensive coordinator, and they asked him, are you going to run a 4-3? Are you going to run a 3-4? What is your scheme going to be? He said, it's good. It all depends on who we are playing that week. So you have a kind of two different styles there. And I think if Kevin can just, put that ego aside a little bit and realize that he's going to get the credit for the offense if they go out and win, whether they're, doing, all these deep passes that take long developing, crossing routes and all that other stuff, or they run the short, quick screens and run the ball, and have that complementary offense. So I think if he can realize that, then I think that obviously makes things a whole lot better for him.
Yeah. So, just going back to the question though, is he on the hot seat? Again, those two main things that, he was brought in to do. If we're not doing that well for two seasons in a row, yeah, I think there's definitely a question there. But, that brings us to that question now with post Kwesi Adofo-Mensah, is JJ McCarthy still quarterback one? So we started to hear that, again, going back to, what was said here, again, there's some different rumors saying that there was a disagreement between JJ McCarthy and Sam, blah, blah, blah. And that could have been the thing, is that there was a disagreement because, hey, I think Sam's the right way to go. And there was maybe a cap and building conversation, but I'm not letting KOC off the hook. They were both in on that decision.
To say that Kevin O'Connell did not have input on whether or not JJ McCarthy was going to be the guy. Mm-hmm. No, I don't believe that for a second.
Yeah. So, I mean, I still think this is where I'm at. I mean, I think we need to ride or die with JJ McCarthy. I don't think that you don't bring in. I think that you do bring in another quarterback. I don't, unless there's a quarterback, and I mentioned this on Rap Show, but you know, because I've been a big time hater, not on Joe Burrow. I've been a big time hater on the possibility of Joe Burrow this year. I've been a big hater on that. It's just not happened. Doesn't make sense for the Bengals. But unless there was somebody like that, I mean, there's not a list of quarterbacks out there that are going to come in and be an elite type quarterback out there. We're in cap trouble. We're in cap trouble too. So there's no quarterback that's just out there that we can make a trade and that we can pay that's going to be an elite top quarterback and still fill the holes that we need to. So I just don't think that that's out there right now for us to where that there's somebody that's gettable that's like that. So I think our best play right now is to, you know, that's because we saw something in weeks 14 through 17, right? Mm-hmm. 14 through 16. So let's see what we actually have in JJ McCarthy. Let's get healthy on the offensive line. Let's get JJ healthy coming into the season. We know that putting him in a box to what he isn't doesn't work. So let's work on the things that he does do great and try to see if we can make him a really good quarterback this year. And if we don't, we're going to end up with high draft picks. We're going to be able to go out and know that we have to go get a guy if that's the case. That's just kind of where I'm at with JJ McCarthy. At some point, this organization, this fan base has to be willing to accept that we're going to have to go through some growing pains on either developing a quarterback or seeing if we can hit on one. And yes, I know we did with Christian Ponder and we missed, right? Teddy Bridgewater, that was a different deal, got hurt. But if we don't go through the growing pains like the Bears did with Caleb Williams, I'm not saying Caleb Williams is still going to turn out to be the best thing ever, but the very first season they were calling for a backup and for a change and that he might be a bust. And now this year they're in the playoffs, they're singing a different story. You know, so just let's see what kind of growth we can get. We didn't even get a full season. We got 10 games. It was very sporadic. It was hard to get consistency going through several weeks. So let's see if we can get that. But if he can't stay healthy and we can't continue on that positive trajectory, we got to go in a different direction.
Absolutely. I mean, my big concern with JJ McCarthy is he going to be good? I think the tools are there and I think he can be good. It's can he stay on the field? And that what you mentioned. But yeah, there really isn't, you know, you start hearing the names. Okay. You know, sounds like Kirk Cousins is going to get released by Atlanta. Do they bring him back in? You know, the Mac Jones thing floats around. Mac Jones isn't going to get you to the Super Bowl. Mac Jones is going to get you, 11 wins and you're going to, the wild card round.
Maybe, but
maybe 11. I mean,
But say it to yourself. You know, I told Rap the same thing. Say it to yourself. Do you say, we're a Mac Jones away?
No.
So why? Why give up a second round pick if
that's
what they're asking for?
And if you do that, you give up a second round pick. Mac Jones is your starter.
Yeah.
I mean, you're not going to do that. And then he's in the last year of his contract. So do you extend him?
He's not coming here to be a backup.
No. If you trade for him, he's going to be the starter and McCarthy will sit the bench.
And people that want to say Mac Jones isn't better than JJ McCarthy, yes, actually he is. He is better than JJ McCarthy right now.
Yeah.
Does he have a higher ceiling than JJ McCarthy? No. Do we know if JJ's going to hit that ceiling? No, we don't. But as of right now, today, Mac Jones has more starts, he has more experience, and he has more proven gameplay that we've seen as a winner in the league than JJ McCarthy. And he stays healthy. Right. So, yes, as of today, he is a better quarterback. But does that, again, ask yourself that question. Are we a Mac Jones away? And if the answer is no, why do it?
Right. And you're going to have to overpay for him because San Francisco has him under contract. Brock Purdy missed, 8 games this year?
If he was a free agent, let's try to bring him in. But if you're having to give up a second round pick, why?
No, and this goes back to the Kwesi thing earlier. They could have had Mac Jones, but Kwesi was so sure that Daniel Jones was staying that they didn't have a backup plan for the backup quarterback position. And then when Jones walked out the door, they kind of got caught holding the bag, and then they tried to patch it all together. And that's the thing. Even if JJ McCarthy is the guy this year, you have to have somebody as a backup who is capable of coming in and winning games, because
Absolutely.
we don't know that you can get 17 games out of JJ McCarthy right now.
And mentoring our young quarterback for sure.
Right.
Norsfius on YouTube says, "Hey Ryno, hey Steve, good one on with Rap tonight. Appreciate you watching. Purple Gang, I appreciate you reposting this stream too and getting the word out on Vikings Playbook. Much appreciated." Norsfius also says JJ will be him. He just needs the time to develop.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, we don't know because we have to see him play. The year that he was injured, that was valuable playing time that he missed, but he also got valuable mental reps. I think that we did see some of that on the field as well too. We need time to see whether or not he is the guy. It's too soon to give up on JJ McCarthy, in my opinion.
Yeah, you don't give up on a first round pick after 10 games.
Yeah, that's just where I'm at too. And I'm not glazing JJ McCarthy.
No.
That's not what it is, but we have to be realistic with the situation we are in with the cap. We have to be realistic with what free agents are available. We have to be realistic that Joe Burrow is not gettable at this stage. Yes, I know that there's trouble with the Cincinnati Bengals, but that was a play and a message to his front office to make some moves to get him some more help. He is not going anywhere unless they do not get him that help and he demands a trade. Other than that, those dreams are that's all they are dreams.
Right.
Skol Mafia says, you think give Willis a call. What are your thoughts on Joe Milton? So when you're talking about Malik Willis, I think he played himself into better situation.
He's going to get
here
paid, I think, a little bit. He's
Yeah.
going to get a Sam Darnold type contract, I think.
Yeah, I think he's going to get a prove it type situation with the team. I think he deserved or has shown enough that Tennessee was a bad situation when he was there with the Packers. He has shown himself to be a more capable quarterback that you can win games with, and at times has looked even better than Love has. So I definitely don't think he's gettable for us, and not just with the cap situation. I think also where we are with the quarterback situation, Malik's only probably coming over here if he knows he has a legit shot to you can win the job. Joe Milton.
Honestly, I think Malik Willis will end up as a starter in Miami. They got former the assistant GM and Jeff Hafley going over there to be the head coach.
Yeah,
it makes too much sense, I think, for him to go down there.
Good point. Yeah, with that Hafley connection, absolutely. That's a good one, Ryno, for sure. Joe Milton. I don't know if I wouldn't be opposed to bringing in a Joe Milton type guy. That's not really a name that I've really thought of.
No, doesn't really move the needle too much for me, I guess.
But that could be something as like a third string type situation for me. I do like you'd have to trade for him, but and it's probably not going to happen before. I keep mentioning it. Davis Mills is who I really like, but you would have to pay him. But I do like the possibility of yes, and you might say, well, you didn't like Mike Jones, but you like Davis Mills. Well, I think Davis Mills does have a high ceiling. I think he did play better, a lot better, than CJ Stroud this year. What are your thoughts? Sorry, I need some water.
Yeah, I mean, I like Davis Mills as a backup coming in here. Again, he kind of fits in that same bucket to me as, are we a Davis Mills away from winning a Super Bowl? No. But that's the biggest thing. Most of the gettable guys that are going to be out there fall into that bucket. It is a Mitch Trubisky. It's a Jimmy Garoppolo. Dan Donovan mentioned him down there. It is those type of guys. It's the guys that are your your regular game manager, journeyman backup guy that can come in and, win you a game or two. And that's, if you're going to, go in with the intention of JJ McCarthy being the starter, that's the kind of guy that that's fits the bill as to what we need. But, if you're bringing in legit competition, there's not a lot of options out there that aren't going to cost us a lot of money.
I like Jimmy G. I mentioned Jimmy G with Rap as well, too, is one of the guys I like.
Yeah, I'm not against him for that.
It didn't work out with the Raiders, but he's a system guy. He plays the same system that he did in San Francisco that he would play here. Mm-hmm. He's also a veteran presence with a mature individual that can help, mentor and lead JJ McCarthy down the right path. I do like that. And I think if JJ were to get hurt, he is a guy that can step in and be ready to play in this system for sure. Skol Mafia says the problem is KOC has to win now and doesn't have time to develop a quarterback anymore. He's on the hot seat. I would argue the other way. If he made, because he would be, especially right now, he's going to have a big say if anyone does come back in here. So if it is somebody to replace JJ McCarthy, if that's the case, there's not a whole lot of stuff that's out there. And then you got to lay in that bed. So the best option for him right now is probably to continue to groom JJ McCarthy and hope that he can develop him into a good quarterback. And at least if he plays and continues on the upward trajectory, like I said, depending on how the season ends, I think he keeps his job. I think he shows that he can develop a quarterback. So I think that's his best choice, because if he says, hey, I want to go with Aaron Rodgers next year, and let's just say that just doesn't work out and it ends up in disaster, whatever it may be. We remember Brett Favre's second season with the Vikings, right? Mm-hmm. He was just done. If it comes in and it's one of those situations, KOC's gone for sure.
Yeah.
That's
the thing. I think he stands a better chance of it, going with McCarthy and trying to, and if he doesn't pan out, 2027 is, as it sits right now, there's probably 8 first-round quarterbacks, 7 or 8 of them. It's shaping up to be a very good quarterback class. If they, throw JJ McCarthy to the side, like you said, and go with an Aaron Rodgers or something like that, and he looks old and wore out and we win 6 games and miss the playoffs there, then you fire everybody at that point in time.
Yeah, absolutely. Northfield, says no on Jimmy G. His old teammates said that, he's weak. We'll say he sat out over a nothing so-called injury. That absolutely could be. I'm just saying, for the system that we run, he fits in that same system, and he's a system quarterback for that. Mm-hmm. All right, we're going to go ahead and jump into our next topic. And, I think that we also still have a gripe in this. I wrote an article on this as well, too, but the Hall of Fame Pro Bowl voting systems, these are absolutely broken. So we saw this with Bill Belichick. Not arguably, he is the most decorated head coach in NFL history in the Super Bowl era for sure. And he's either first or second in every major category, mostly first in all coaching statistics that are out there. So how Bill Belichick did not get 40 of the 50 votes, the 80% needed for the first time for the Pro Football Hall of Fame, is beyond me. Now,
it's vendetta. That's all it was.
And in the Pro Football Hall of Fame, because there was a lot of blowback, and so Pro Football Hall of Fame issues a letter and basically says that people on the committee, if they have gone against the bylaws, basically. If someone merits a first time go like a Bill Belichick, where it's a no-brainer, basically, you shouldn't be holding that bias you know, and that's kind of what some of these things have turned into, is a popularity contest. We saw it happen with, you know, Terrell Owens got on that he should have been a Hall of Famer. So they issued the letter, and Terrell Owens is like, where was the letter when I was getting snubbed? You know, Chris Carter said the same thing.
Yep.
You know, we saw Chris Carter get snubbed when, you know, at the time when Chris was looking to get in the Hall, you know, he's on the, you know, top of the leaderboards. We're absolutely, you know, for catches and touchdowns.
Jim
He
Marshall
absolutely
still's not
should
in the
be
Hall.
there. So some of these things, like for the voting and the process for it, I just think that it just needs to be reviewed. You know, the Hall of Fame, yeah, some egregious thing. Bill Belichick not getting in, and some of these other individuals that are getting into the Hall. Now, there's probably individuals on there like, I don't know, you know, can't make it the first time. You had some of these guys. Now, Pat McAfee's on talking to all these different voters, and everyone's saying, well, I voted for him. Everyone's saying he voted for him. Well, somebody didn't vote for him.
Right.
At least 10 of you, right? So nobody wants to own up to it that they didn't vote for Bill Belichick. We go into the Pro Bowl voting system, you know, and, you know, you have this popularity contest that goes in with fan votes and the stuff that's weighed into it. Will Reichert, statistically, he was the better kicker this year.
Yeah.
Than Brandon.
I don't know. I don't know how Will Reichert does not make the Pro Bowl.
But he's the all-pro kicker, right?
Yeah.
He's a first-team all-pro. But somehow he is not on the Pro Bowl for the NFC.
I mean, realistically, they just need to stop it with the Pro Bowl thing. Make it just a thing like the all-pro. You know, okay, here's an award. You were named to a Pro Bowl. It's a joke anymore. I mean, Shadur Sanders is a
just about to bring it up
at the Pro Bowl. JJ McCarthy deserved to be there before Shadur Sanders did. I mean, if you look at numbers.
So I wrote about this as well, too, with Shadur Sanders. So Shadur Sanders, him being selected, you know, as a rookie, largely, I mean, entirely had to do with fan voting and popularity in media, trying, you know, because they wanted to see him other than his statistics.
Well,
his
and
statistics weren't good. He didn't even have a positive ratio between his touchdowns and interceptions. He had 7 touchdowns and 10 interceptions. There were much more deserving quarterbacks that could have been asked to come onto the Pro Bowl instead of Shadur Sanders. And the sideshow that they've made it with, you know, and I kind of like to watch some of the skills competition stuff, but the fact that you're not even playing a game anymore and it's not about bringing the best because there's so many opt-outs for the Pro Bowl, it's definitely lost its meaning.
And that's the thing, you know, when it used to be a game that the players cared about, you know, it used to be, hey, we're getting a trip to Hawaii for, you know, 3-4 days, and you go out there with your family and you hang out in Honolulu for a few days and, you know, have a good old time and you play a game. Now nobody wants to, you know, it got to the point nobody wants to play it, you know, and then you've got, now that you're having it, you know, the week before the Super Bowl, anybody from those 2 Super Bowl teams are all opting out. I mean, that's how Shadur got in there, because Drake may opt out because he has to, you know, another game to get ready for. But it's, just the whole thing. I don't know how much longer they can run it like this. I mean, you know, the NFL is all about making money and squeezing every ounce of blood out of that turnip, but I don't know really anybody that would sit down and watch the entire thing. Yeah, you might flip through and watch a little bit of it, but I mean, all things being equal, you know, I watched the Senior Bowl today, and I'll, you know, tomorrow watch some of that other stuff. I'm not going to watch that, you know,
flag football,
what the Pro Bowl has become, I guess.
How pissed are you, though, if you're a quarterback out there that, you know, had an okay season, but they're looking for a 5th string bench quarterback for the Pro Bowl, that you had Pro Bowl incentives, escalators in your contract, and instead Shadur Sanders is selected over you, and you miss out, you know, and let's just say that your contract's not that big in the first place. And, you know, you possibly have a big bonus if you get, you know, invited to the Pro Bowl. You know, so there's that piece to go on top of, you know, are we really bringing the best of the best? No, obviously we're not.
No.
So it's kind of losing its luster, and really the one that really counts now is the all pro teams, so the Pro Bowl is just kind of a sideshow for money, right? Which is sad, because when you start looking at, some of the greats back in the day and you see that, hey, they were a 7-time Pro Bowler, that meant something.
Right.
That was like, wow, that's impressive. Now, fast forward 10 years from now, and we start looking at, X player, and they got selected to 7 Pro Bowls. How are you going to look at that?
Yeah, it's like a big
You're
deal.
probably going to look at it what era they were selected to Pro Bowls, right?
Yeah, because right now it's gone down to it's a participation trophy, kind of thing. Oh, hey, look, I got this. Yeah, so does 75% of everybody else in the league, because nobody wants to do it, so they keep calling people until, hey, you want to come do this? Yeah, well, I got nothing going on this weekend. Yeah, I'll come, I guess.
The way to fix this, potentially, maybe not so much the voting, but if you were selected because someone opted out, or if you were selected between a fan vote, I don't think that you should be, have next to your name as a Pro Bowl selection.
Yeah.
And then, you take a look at how the Major League Baseball used to do it. They used to have, let's just say that you had the top 4 snubs, if you will, that didn't quite get in. They would have like a fan vote to see who the last in would be. So at least the fans getting, who the committee decided these were the tops in the league. We really struggled with these 4. We feel like they should have been in, but just like it was really close with someone else. I think that would be cool, doing something like that. But still, fixing the other thing is as far as what they're doing at the Pro Bowl. But at least the meaning of the title of Pro Bowl, at least you could help a little bit that way. Inviting, I'm not saying he can't be a good player, but it becomes a sideshow when you're inviting a player that had the type of season, not the player that had the type of season that Shedeur Sanders had because of the statistical performance.
Yeah, okay? and he is there because of it's going to bring media attention, and it's a circus, and people are going to watch part of that just because it's ratings, and that's what they want.
Yeah. Northvia says Bill will get in next year. I think he's talking about Polian. Made it a point to ensure he didn't get in due to Spygate and Deflategate. Yeah, I mean, that could be. I mean, there's obviously some Bill Belichick bias that's going on here for sure. And Northvia also says vote from your peers should hold 80% of the weight. I totally agree with that. And I think he's talking about the Pro Bowl. Absolutely. Absolutely. I agree. As far as the fan vote goes, I think, once the committees and the players are done, then have a fan vote. Like I said, hey, these are the last 4 or whatever.
Well, and the fans can go out there and, if you got some diehard fan of a certain player, they can go out and vote 75 times if they want to.
And if your social media department's really good about getting out the vote, you're going to get your players in, right? Does that mean that they were the best selected? Absolutely not. So when some of these players are having, incentives built into their contracts of whether or not they go to the Pro Bowl, I mean, this is just ridiculous. What are we doing? Just crazy stuff.
Yeah, I mean, to Northvia's point there, I mean, that, the NFL Top 100 that NFL Network does before the season every year, to me, that even holds more weight because that, again, is voted on by their peers, the other players in the league. It's not the popularity contest or who can get the most likes on Twitter and everything else. I mean, that's what half the vote was this year, and you saw it all over the place. It was, retweet this to vote for so-and-so.
And I did it, but it doesn't mean that, did I really think that, so-and-so was the best when I weighed everyone? No. I mean, you were trying to vote for your favorite team's players, Topic number 6, Justin Jefferson. He had a US Today interview. Here's just a snippet before we dive into it.
I don't know how much you Google yourself, but lately, I was just doing my research for this, and I see nothing but trade proposals and like rumors along those lines. Are you ever aware of that stuff, and how do you process it when you see it?
Yeah, I mean, of course, I'm into social media and those things. I'm tagged into those things or mentioned into those things, but I don't really care about those things. Nobody really understand what's going on in that building besides the people that's in that building. Obviously, I understand the difficulty of the season. Not every season is going to be the top tier season. It's not too many people that had consecutive, years dominating the way I've been dominating. So it's just all part of the plan. It's just all God's plan, and just really a wake up moment to I gotta go back to work, even though I don't feel that the season was on me. But just going back to work personally, I feel like I can do better. Personally, I feel like there's ways to do better and to better my craft. So it's not really too much of thinking about the negatives, or I don't really care about what other people say. It's just all about the people that is in that building with me, and then all about my mental and going out there and being better and playing better. And of course, trying to reach that goal, which is to be in this game next year.
All right. So with that, some people wanted to run with that and be like, wow, GM just got fired. He's answering this question. There's trade rumors, and people are trying to attach it. Hey, the Bills should go out and get him. It's not happening. To me, that's a Burrow-esque type rumor. It's not happening. Look somewhere else, because JJ is.
Yeah, can we interest you in a Jordan Addison? But not a Justin Jefferson.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's not happening. We already had, the Grant Cohn, deal where even Grant had said, hey, Jefferson's not available. So they're focusing more on Addison as far as the 49ers. So why are we trying to stoke this again? Kwesi did not draft Justin Jefferson. No. Now, I'm not saying that they didn't have a good relationship, but I don't think it was that tight to where now he wants to go somewhere else because Kwesi was let go. I think Justin Jefferson, as you saw, we are the luckiest fans in the league to at least have a leader and a superstar on our team like Justin Jefferson, that when he gets asked those kind of tough questions, he's been so rock solid in the way that he's answered those. I can't even express how grateful I am to not have the type of problems that some of these other teams have with Justin Jefferson. He has just been an amazing professional and an advocate for the team for sure. Your thoughts, I guess, after seeing that?
It's the national media, NFL media, wants so hard for Justin Jefferson to be, like a lot of other top wide receivers. They want him to be that selfish diva.
Yeah.
They want him to do all that, and he's not. Is he frustrated about how the season went? Absolutely he is, and he has every right to be. Mm-hmm. I mean, it was a tough year for not only him, it was for the offense in general. But
and that interview goes on to talk about that, where
right.
he they talk about Sam, and there was a little bit of controversy, that social media tried to spark up on that too. But I mean, he was saying what we already all know. Yeah,
it's no big secret
that better team with Sam. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's no big secret that he would have had better numbers with Sam Darnold throwing him the ball this year than the conglomeration that we had.
And that's not a knock on behind JJ. That still doesn't mean that he's not behind JJ.
No,
he's behind whoever's. He's a team guy.
Yeah, and that's the thing, and he's done a really good job of not letting the frustrations get to him and let it spill over. And even, in those games toward the end of the season where he wasn't getting the ball very much, he was still, when Jalen Naylor would have a great catch, he'd be over there and he's, pumping him up and he's doing that, and he was talking to McCarthy, trying to keep him pumped up when when things were going well. And he's a very rare individual when it comes to, especially the wide receiver position, which is naturally, seems to be a position of divas. And and I've seen that today too. It seemed like everybody in Bills Mafia is putting out the Justin Jefferson to the Bills trade scenarios. And I'm like, I had one of them that was on there. I said, okay, yeah, we'll consider, you put up, name whoever, you put up Josh Allen and James Cook for Justin Jefferson. We'll talk about it. Yeah, otherwise, no, you can just
ridiculous trade scenarios. Class G33 says, it's not like he ripped 9 in the article.
No,
he
didn't.
He means interview. And again, he's still behind JJ. Class also said he could have, but I think it's objective fact that they would have done better. Absolutely. And JJ would probably tell you the same thing, that he didn't play up to the level that, probably the team thought he would, or probably that he thought he should have.
Right.
Northfield says, too many out there tossing out clickbait trash. I totally agree, Northfield.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Class says, Steve, I think he says love, probably. Your comparison to Glory Road on Vocal Vike. Just join this one here. Great stuff tonight. Thank you. Appreciate it. For real. All right. Awesome. Angel Duster says, cheers, fellas. Thanks for the content tonight. Absolutely. Thanks for joining us, Angel. Appreciate it. Northfield said he also liked that comparison to Glory Road as well. All right, so that kind of brings us towards the end here. Is there any other topics any of you online that are watching want us to cover quickly? Or Ryno, do you got anything else that you want to talk about or cover?
And I think we hit it all pretty good here. We talked about a lot of stuff tonight, so
Absolutely.
There's a lot to take in, and it's going to be an interesting, next, what's the draft, 6 weeks out, something like that, 8 weeks out.
Pretty soon, this man is going to be steering the ship through the draft, Rob Brzezinski.
Yep.
So, yeah, no, absolutely. Again, those of you that are joining maybe late, I'm joined by Ryno. Ryno also does the Vikings Uncensored podcast. So make sure that you go ahead and follow him on social media. Again, Vikings Uncensored on X. For YouTube and Facebook, you can go ahead and search or at Vikings Uncensored. So thanks again, Ryno, for joining us today. Definitely appreciate it. Also want to make sure that I put in a plug for a couple of things that I'm doing on the side. Make sure you check out some of the stuff that I'm doing on purpleptsd.com. Go ahead and check that out. Again, purpleptsd.com. Go ahead and check that out. Tons of articles out there. For you guys that I don't know why they didn't play right. There we go. purpleptsd.com. Go ahead and check it out. And then also I do the Fantasy 15 podcast for fantasy15football.com. That's something I own and create. And I do that with my co-host Ryan. And I just had Mark Anderson join our staff as well too as a writer. So exciting things happening at fantasy15football.com. If you're looking to do fantasy football, please check us out at our website. Check out our Fantasy 15 fan chat, collaborate with other owners, and ask us on sit, start, and trade advice. And then again, we're going to have your 2026 draft kit all ready to go this upcoming season, rankings, and more. Have a few other chants in here too. Just let JJ play and be him. Class says, I gotta say, if they let 9 go, he's gonna come back and be locked next. KOC, I think, is what he means next year. Northfield says Ryno has a great show. Hey, shout out for Ryno.
Norse is one of our OGs over there. So yeah,
awesome.
we have a good time with the banter back and forth between him and Brunswick and myself over there. So.
And I just want to thank all of you guys, whether you follow Ryno over at Vikings Uncensored and you joined here tonight. I hope that you also follow here at Vikings Playbook. I hope to have Ryno on again or join you over at Vikings Uncensored as well too. And then thanks to those of you that also came over here from Vocal Vike tonight. Appreciate that as well. And just if you haven't already, follow us on X and YouTube. Again, it's Vikings Playbook on X. It's Vikes Playbook on YouTube. Thank you so much. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok as well. And Vikings Playbook. Your Sunday starts here. this is all I have for tonight. I appreciate everything. For Ryno and Steve Hoikkala, this has been Vikings Playbook. Skol Vikings. Have a great night and great weekend, everyone.
Have a good weekend, everybody.